Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Neelambujasyamalako Sita Samarupitavamabhagam Parno Mahasayakacharuchapam Namami Ramam Raghuvamshanatham Atulita Baladhamam Hemashailavadeham Danujavana Krishanum Jnaninamagraganyam Sakala Guna Nidhanam Vanaranamadhisham Raghupati Priya Bhaktam Vatajatam Namami. Bhagavan, after leaving from Chitrakuta, is walking through forests, etc. And on his way, he meets one devotee whose name is Sutikshna. That Sutikshna was a disciple of Agastya Muni. And since leaving his ashram after his studies, he had just been waiting for this darshan of Bhagavan. And finally, when he is able to meet Bhagavan, he is so overjoyed. He witnesses Bhagavan not only in his mind, but also in front of him. And he is able to bring Bhagavan to his own ashram and offer puja and offer this beautiful stuti, which we had seen after doha 10, in which so many things were said. He offered prostrations to Bhagavan. He prayed that, may Bhagavan protect us. And very importantly, we saw this beautiful line in which he says that Asa abhimana jai jani hore me sevaka raghupati pati more. That may I never lose this identity. May I never lose this pride that I am a servant and my master is none other than Bhagavan Śrī Rāma. After which Bhagavan is very pleased with him, and we saw how Bhagavan asks him to demand some boon. Sutikshna ji says, I don't know what to ask for, so you please give me whatever you want. Bhagavan gives him bhakti, virati, vijnana, all of these things. Devotion, dispassion, knowledge. After which he says, thank you, Bhagavan, for giving me all these things, but now I want to ask for something. And what is that? That you please stay in my heart with Lakshman and Sita ji, with your bow and arrow in your hand. Bhagavan said, yes, may it be so. And now Bhagavan starts making his way towards Agastya Muni's ashram. Sutikshna says, Bhagavan, since you're going there, I'll also come with you, because he has to fulfill his Guru Dakshina. So he says, I'll also go with you. And they arrived at Agastya Muni's ashram. Agastya Muni was sitting with some other sages, etc. And immediately he jumps up and goes to meet Bhagavan. And he is then offered puja again. And now all are sitting in this assembly where all these sages, etc. are. And so we had read some of those chopas after doha 12. We had read, I think, 4. So we'll just see now, after Bhagavan meets Agastya ji, he says to him, Tumasana Prabhu Durava Kachu Nahi. He says, oh Lord, Bhagavan, everywhere where he meets any sage or sadhu, he always addresses them very reverentially, very respectfully. And here he calls him Prabhu, and he says, Durava kachu nahi. I'm not hiding anything from you. Now, here we had seen that essentially Agastya Muni knows why Bhagavan has come, etc., which is what Bhagavan will say. But in addition, something for us to see here is whenever we are doing any seva, and the seva that Bhagavan has taken upon himself is, he had said, I will rid this whole forest of all nishichara, of all rakshasas, right? He said, nishichara hina karau mahi. I will remove all these asuras from the earth. And now he's calling Agastya Muni as Prabhu. In other words, he sees him as a master. But the thing for us to see here is when we're doing seva, there is nothing that should be hidden between that sevaka and Swami, particularly on the part of the servant. If we go into our seva with some other intention in mind, which we try and hide from the one whom we are serving, inevitably it will come out, it will express in some way or another. And here Bhagavan is showing that as a sevaka, what should our dharma be? It should be to be completely honest and open. And also, all these sages and munis, they have done so much sadhana for the express purpose of knowing Bhagavan. So in that way also Bhagavan says, you know everything because you have done that upasana and sadhana. I have nothing to hide from you. Tuma janahu jehi karana ayav. You know for what reason I have come here. So one is that Agastya Muni knows the whole story and background of why Rama has left Ayodhya. But again, what he's saying is, you know that I am not just a prince who has been exiled from Ayodhya. You know that actually I have taken this human form in order to rid the earth of all these asuras, rakshasas, etc. So Bhagavan doesn't want to say anything explicitly because everyone else may not be aware. But he says to Agastya Muni, I know that you know, and therefore I'm not explaining anything to you. Tati tata na kahi samujhaya. So a lot of the transactions are happening in this way, right? All these munis know. And whenever Bhagavan meets them, he asks them, what should I do? Or where should I go? Where should I stay? And all of them always say, Bhagavan, you are asking us. We should be asking you. Then Bhagavan says, Abaso mantra dehu prabhu mohi. Now please give me some advice as to how I should, how I'm able to defeat all these enemies of the sages who are living in this forest and destroying the whole environment. And Agastyaji smiles. Muni musukane suni prabhuvani. And he says, Poochehu nath mohi ki ka jani. You are asking me, O Lord. Bhagavan called him Prabhu. So now Agastyaji calls Bhagavan Nath. He says, what do I know? You know everything and you're asking me as though I should tell you. And he says, Bhagavan, you alluded to the fact that I know who you are. In other words, that I know that you are Bhagavan. I know for what purpose you've come on this earth. And very beautifully here, he says, Tumarei bhajana prabhava aghari jana mahima kachuka tumhari. He says, oh Aghari. He uses a very beautiful name for Bhagavan. He says, Bhagavan, you are the one who is the destroyer or the enemy of Agha. Agha means Papa. Bhagavan's name, Bhagavan's form, Bhagavan's gunas, his lila, his dharma, all of those things are known as the destroyer of papa. Means anytime we have any negativity in our mind, what is the best way to remove that negativity? It is said by remembering Bhagavan, either his name, his form, his qualities, his lila, anything associated with Bhagavan, and that papa will be removed from our mind if we remember him with love and devotion. So Agastya ji is saying, you are aghari, and tumare bhajana prabhav, it is the result or the effect of loving you and serving you. In other words, it's by your grace, jano mahima kachuka tumhari, that I know your glory, and in any case, I only know so little of your mahima. If we understand anything about Bhagavan, we should know that that is by Bhagavan's grace alone. That it's not because we have done anything special and therefore we are so good and so great. It is by taking Bhagavan's name and remembering his gunas, his rupa, that those negativities leave our mind, and therefore our mind becomes sattvic and we are able to understand him or see him in any capacity. He says it is your glory. Agastya ji is not taking credit for anything at all. He says this is all down to you. Whatever blessings I have, they're because of your glory, your power. Now, what is your glory? So he says, Umari taru bisala tava maya. Your maya, your shakti, which has given rise to all this creation, is like Umari taru. So this Umari taru in Sanskrit is known as Udumbara. So here in Awadhi it's called Umari. And in English, this is, there is a tree which grows, I think, in India and generally in Asia. And it's called a cluster fig tree. So one is it grows really big. You might have seen it. It grows really big. And then along the branches, and sometimes you see even along the trunk, these big bunches of figs which grow on that tree. And sometimes they look green, and then I think they change in color. There was one in the ashram, huge. And you will not believe the amount of fruits that are there on this tree. You know how in the fruit trees that we see here are like some apple tree or pear tree or something like that, right? Blackberry bush or something. The apple tree maybe max like 4 or 5 apples on one branch, right? Maybe fewer. This tree is just like it's covered in fruit. So he says your Maya is like that tree. So I think this is a strange example. Why is he saying that this Shakti is like a tree? He says, Phala Brahmanda Aneka Nikaya. Just like that tree has so many fruits on it, he says, your Maya has given rise to countless Brahmandas. One Brahmanda is one set of 14 worlds. So this world that we live in, right, this earth, Bhuloka, is one of 14. And that one set of 14 is known as one Brahmanda. And in Bhagavan, countless Brahmandas exist. In fact, elsewhere in the Ramayana, what is said that in each Roma on Bhagavan's body, Roma means this hair that grows like on our arms. In each Roma, countless Brahmandas exist. And imagine how huge this creation is. That this whole, not just this planet, right? This whole universe that we live in, with so many galaxies and so many planets and stars and moons and everything, that is just one loka out of 14. There are 14 such lokas. And those 14 are only one Brahmanda. And here he says, like that tree has so many fruits, there are so many Brahmandas. Now, those fruits which grow on this tree, they look nice, but you actually can't eat them. Because if you open them, you will see that there are so many insects inside. Now Agastyaji says, Jiva chara chara jantu samana bhitara basahi na janahi ana. Like there are so many ants and little like worms and all these things in that fruit, in each Brahmanda, there are so many jivas. There are so many human beings, but also so many other creatures who live inside their own world. And how do they live? Bhitara basahi na janahi ana. They live inside their world and they don't know anything else. Now this applies to us even in our own world. Means, you know how we say people, this person is living in his own world. He lives in a bubble. Means outside of those few people that he associates with, and outside of those few places that he goes regularly, he has no idea what's going on in the wider world. Right? Do we live like this or not? Most of the time we're not thinking what's happening in some other place or in some other world. Now, here what he's saying is, when we're living inside, we have absolutely no awareness that there is anything more than this world that we live in. Right? How that insect lives inside that fruit and has no reason to think that outside this fruit there is so many other worlds. In this way, we are living in this world. And actually, there is more than enough to occupy our attention in this world alone. Right? There are so many things to keep us busy. But what he's saying is that is the sign of someone who has narrow vision, who has absolutely no awareness of what's going on outside. Somebody who is well informed, you consider them well informed because they know what's happening outside of their immediate surroundings. Otherwise, you see this person doesn't, apart from local news, local newspaper, he doesn't read anything. And in the local newspaper, what will you find? Nothing really happens. So this is how we are all living in this world. Just completely unaware. And you know, that's why we feel that I'm so big. Because if we're living in one small, tiny fruit, then in comparison to that fruit, then we feel, yes, I'm very important in this fruit. Okay? Like they say, big fish in a small pond. And when that fish goes into a bigger pond, then it realizes, actually, I'm so tiny and there is so much more. So it's important for us to understand, because otherwise, you know, our problems become so big when we forget how big this world is. One is problems reduce when we remember Bhagavan. But even just remembering how big this creation is, everything is just put into perspective. And we realize that actually, this is not such a big thing. In the life of creation, what is 80, 90 years? in the millions and trillions of years that this world has existed. And remember, this is only one cycle of creation. What is one human lifespan? It's nothing, right? Like the blink of an eye. Agastya ji says this is how we are living. He says, Te phala bhachaka kathina karala. This whole phala means that fruit. In other words, the whole Brahmanda is consumed by time. There is nothing in creation which is not subject to time. Right? Everyone, no matter how good they are or how much they have done or not done, everybody is subject to the rules of time. He says that time which consumes this whole creation, tava bhaya darata sada sau kala. That kala is afraid of you. In other words, that one whom everybody fears, that one is afraid of you. So you are greater than everything else. This is what is said that Bhagavan's, in one place how it's described, Bhagavan's bow is like that kala. And that's how this destruction takes place, right? Everything is destroyed by time. And that time is in Bhagavan's hand. It's like his instrument. He is in charge, he is in control of it. Tava bhaya darata sada saukala, that is scared of you. Agastya ji says, Te tuma sakala lokapati sahi. Oh Master, you are the Lord of all these lokapatis. So there is, imagine there's one person in charge of each world. Bhagavan is in charge of all of them. He is the master of all lokapatis. Ultimate authority in creation rests only with Bhagavan. That we should not forget. Other people might appear to be, in charge in the meantime. And so we go to different people to ask for help, etc. Bhagavan only is in charge and giving everyone the power to do whatever they're doing. Puchehu mohi manuja ki nai. And now you are asking me, like a man, means like a human being, you are asking me, please give me some advice. How should I defeat this Rakshasa, etc. In other words, Agastya ji says, I can't believe that you're asking me. Bhagavan really, I know that you know everything. Why are you asking me? He says, you ask me, now I'm going to ask you for something. Bhagavan has not said, ask for some boon, but Agastya ji directly will say, this is what I want, Bhagavan. Yaha bara maga upripaniketa. Oh Bhagavan, you are the abode of compassion. This is what I ask for as a boon. Basahu hridaya Śrī Anujasakita. Please remain in my heart with Sitaji and Lakshman. Means he also wants that saguna form of Bhagavan with him always. Abirala bhagati virati satasanga charana saroruha priti abhanga. Now he asks for 4 things. 1, avirala bhagati means that bhakti which never ends. That bhakti which has no breaks in between. Sometimes, we feel, yes, we have bhakti. Then something difficult happens and that bhakti starts to shake. Because then we think, Bhagavan, how did you make this happen? Then again, it grows again. He says, avirala bhagati. Virati means dispassion. Satasanga, satsang. And charana saroraha priti abhanga. Unbroken, endless love for your lotus feet. These three things that he has asked for, what is pointed out here, bhakti is the result of all sadhanas. When we do some sadhana, then because Bhagavan is pleased with us, his grace descends and we gain this bhakti in our mind. Mind becomes sattvic. Then second one he asks for is birati, dispassion. And what is said is, dispassion comes when we have performed our dharma. For somebody who is very firm in their own dharma, who has done this dharma anushఠān, means who has very sincerely and very with a very committed mind, who has performed their dharma, the result of that performance of dharma is birati. It is dispassion. And third thing he asked for is satasanga. And earlier what was said, that satasanga is muda mangala mula. It is the root of all joy and of all auspicious joy. Soi phala siddhi sabha sadhana phula. That satsang is like the fruit and all sadhanas are like the flowers. In other words, he asks for the result of all sadhana, the result of all dharma anushtana, as bhakti, vairagya, and as satsang. Why can he ask this? If you say, I also will pray to Bhagavan, that Bhagavan, I want also bhakti, vairagya, satsang. The difference between Agastya Muni and someone like us making that prayer, he has done all the sadhana to attain the result. We, in spite of not having done any sadhana, we say, Bhagavan, please give me the result of my sadhana. Which sadhana? That sadhana which I've done maybe a few days in the past year or month or whatever. So Agastya ji can ask because he already has done enough to gain it. And finally, after all of that, all he asks is, Charana saroruha priti abhanga. I just want love for your lotus feet. Now, Agastya ji was very learned. Right? He also had attained highest knowledge of the supreme truth. Now he says, Jadyapi Brahma akhanda ananta. Even though that Brahman is akhanda, means it's unbroken, it's complete and infinite. Anubhava gamya bhajahi jehi santa. That which is known by experience and which is sought by saints. Asatava rupa bakhanau janau. I have knowledge of this nirguna form of yours, and that's also what I teach. Agastya Muni had students, so he was also teaching. Piri piri saguna brahma rati manav. Even then, I am able to take delight more in your saguna. What is meant here? Agastya Muni was not ignorant of that supreme truth. He was a Brahmajnani. In other words, he knew Brahma Akhanda Ananta. He knew also himself to be that supreme truth. And what is that truth? Anubhava Gamya Bhajahi Jehi Santa. That truth is known directly, immediately by saintly people. And actually here Santa means those who know the truth. They are known as saints. even though this is the case, and even though this is how I have been teaching, means this is how I have described you to others, Piri Piri Saguna Brahma Rati Manav, even then, I have great love for your Saguna form. Means he knows the Supreme, but his mind is reveling in this form of Bhagavan as Ram. Santata Dasana Dehu Badai. He says, Bhagavan, I know what is your nature, and that is to always bring glory to your servants. And because that's what you do, Tate mohi puchehu rakhurai, and therefore you ask me this question. Sometimes, we don't recognize what people know or what they can contribute, especially if those people would volunteer some information or some ideas. So there's somebody who's always sitting quietly and you think, they don't really say anything, so maybe they don't know much. And then somebody asks them a question and they answer so eloquently, so articulately, and you wonder, all this time this person was sitting quietly. I never knew they knew so much. I never knew they could speak so well. And the only reason we find out is because somebody asked them, right? So Agastyaji says, Bhagavan, you are doing all of this only so that people discover the greatness in your devotees. That's why you give so much honor and respect to your own servants, to your own sevakas. Now that he's done all this stuti, he comes back to Bhagavan's question and he says, Hey Prabhu, O Lord, Paraman Manohara Thau. There is this very delightful place, which is Pavana, which is very purifying and pure. Panchavati, Tehi Nau. That is Panchavati. That's the name of the place. So Panchavati literally means where there are these 5 types of trees. I forget which 5, but 5 particular trees in one place. That is called Panchavati. And it's said to be near Nasik. Because Nasik is said to be the place where Shurpanakha lost her nose. So it's called Nasik, and Panchavati was near that. So now Agastyaji says, please go to Panchavati. And on your way, Dandakanpana Punita Prabhu Karahu. On your way, you will pass through this Dandakaranya, this forest of Dandaka. Please go there so that you can purify it. Ugra Sapa Munibara Kara Harahu. And please lift this terrible curse that has been put on this forest. So what is said is, there was a king whose name was Dandaka. And this king, even though he was born in the Raghuvamsha, he was really terrible. He was doing all sorts of wrong things. And because of that, he was cursed by one sage. And the curse was that in your kingdom, there will be a rain of fire. Means fire will rain down from the sky. Now, if there's fire that is raining down, everything gets burnt, right? So there are no plants, there are no trees, there are also no animals, and no human being can live there. No buildings, nothing. So this Dandakaranya is said to be such a place. And because it was like this, where there are no humans, nothing could grow, all the asuras had come there. They liked such places. So they had come there, they were staying there, and they were troubling all the munis who were living in the surrounding area. So Agastyaji says, Bhagavan, you can lift that curse, so you please go there. Vasakarahu taha raghukula raya. Please go and stay there. Kije sakala munina paradaya. And extend your compassion to all the munis who were living there. Now, Bhagavan has received all this from Agastya ji. Chale Rama Muni Aya Supai. He takes permission from Agastya ji and he goes. And now you see, Tulasidas ji, how quickly this journey happens. Turatahi Panchavati Niyarai. In half a line, now he has come close to Panchavati. Now these journeys are not taking long at all. Tulasidas ji doesn't want to describe how he got there. So very quickly he comes to Panchavati. And who does he meet there? Gidharaja se bhente bhai. He meets the king of vultures, who is Jatayu. Jatayu was a very great friend of Dashrath Maharaj. And so he met with Bhagavan and he tells Ram that, oh, I knew your father, etc. And Bahubidhi Priti Badai, they develop this great friendship. And Bhagavan also becomes very fond of Jatayuji. Godavari Nikata Prabhu Rahe. Now Bhagavan stays near the Godavari and Paranagraha Chai, he constructs one, Paranakuti, means one hut made up of all leaves and branches, etc. Earlier when he had gone to Chitrakuta, if you remember, all the Devatas had come, okay? And they built this most beautiful kuti. Now here in Dandakaranya, nobody is there. Devatas also don't want to come because they think these asuras or kashas. So Bhagavan himself with Lakshman, they build this Parnakuti, and now they are staying there. And now there is this really beautiful and very well-known portion that comes, which is known as Śrī Rāma Gita. And this is a dialogue between Lakshman and Bhagavan. Lakshman will ask some questions and Bhagavan will give some teaching. So that we will see next time. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudite Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Gurubhyo Namah. Harihi Om.